What is up, world? It's your boy Ton, and you are listening to the Wonton Wealth Podcast. Here, I'm going to unravel anything and everything commercial real estate related. And more importantly, we're going to add abundant value. So if you're ready, buckle up your eardrums. I got 5 syllables for you. Industrial real estate. Wait, hold on. Industrial real estate. It's actually 8. Sorry. Nonetheless, we're going to talk about my favorite asset class today, which is industrial real estate. Why is it my favorite? Probably because they are simpler buildings. They don't have anything fancy going on with them. And personally, I think they're somewhat easier to manage. Now, when I hear industrial, I'm thinking heavy ass machinery. I'm thinking these factory stacks that you see just shitting out smoke every day and maybe a few sparks flying here and there. But hold on to your hard hats because industrial real estate is a whole lot more diverse than that. It's not just about big, clunky machines or those factories that are just absolutely ginormous. It's actually a pretty dynamic landscape that includes everything from warehouses to distribution centers to data hubs and manufacturing plants. They're typically classified into 3 subcategories. We'll get into those, but in general, you can expect an industrial building to be a larger building with very little amenities, like I mentioned. We're we're looking at, once again, just a concrete pad, flooring, nothing fancy on the concrete, and then you got taller ceilings. Some hopefully they're 12 feet and taller. That's ideal. And then you got metal walls. You don't got any drywall unless it's a mixed use property, but I'm talking just strictly industrial at this point. No drywall. You're going to have some plumbing for, bathrooms and whatnot. You're going to have some heating, but some properties will not have any heating. And with the ones that do have heating, you're probably going to see those hanging resonors that are kind of like your space heaters, just for, regionalized areas within the space. They don't need the whole space to be heated and or cooled. Now, once again, if they do, you're going to get into more specialized industrial real estate. But first up, let's talk about light manufacturing. This is where you're going to see versatile spaces where the magic of assembly happens. These are the places where you put products together, not necessarily from scratch. You're going to have bits and pieces here and there of the final product, and you're going to have an assembly line where people are combining these various parts and components in order to get the final product. Another example of light manufacturing would be data centers. These are like the high-tech brains of the data world. This is where you got a shit ton of digital information, and this is where they're stored, this is where they're processed, and this is where people manage them, or big companies manage them, which means you're going to have a shit ton of computers, and it's probably going to be hot from all of them running at the same time. So these type of facilities they're going to need a way to manage all that heat and be able to dissipate it efficiently. And on top of that, with data, you're probably going to need some type of security. They're going to have to be like Fort Knox, equipped with, top-notch security and some type of infrastructure to keep everything humming pretty smoothly. And next up, we have medium manufacturing. These are like the Goldilocks of the industrial world. They're bigger than your average space, but they're not quite the heavyweight champions. We're talking about places where metal meets fire. This is where you see all the sparks flying. You're going to have distribution warehouses. You're going to have cold storage facilities. Those are 2 good examples here. Another good example is flex warehouses. Flex warehousing is technically a hybrid, which is technically mixed use. because flex warehouses are a combo of office space and industrial space. So keep that in mind. However, for our purposes, flex spaces are technically classified as medium manufacturing. And lastly, we have heavy manufacturing. These are your big guns of industrial real estate. These spaces are going to be found in highly industrialized parts of the city because they got heavy ass machinery, probably chemicals, and they're going to need high power usage, which means phase three. In phase three, you're looking at 480 volts essentially. It's essentially another wire in the electrical engineering that gives you a lot more output in order to run a lot of this heavy machinery. What's cool about heavy manufacturing spaces is that the tenants who are in these spaces are typically utilizing it just for them. So they're single tenant spaces already customized and tailored to the specific tenant. And these tenants tend to stay there for a really long time. Like we're talking decades. Because, think about it. To move such a large operation is going to be inconvenient as shit and frankly expensive as hell. And there you have it. That is your overview of industrial properties. If you happen to find one, stumble upon one, don't be afraid to underwrite it. Don't be afraid to look at it. Feel out the possibilities because it might just be your next gold mine. And that's a wrap. If you've made it this far, that means you've listened to the entire episode. So thank you. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you did, please leave a review on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you're listening from. And if you've learned something or found it useful, share it with one of your homies. And if you want to get in touch with me, I'm pretty active on IG. My handle is pro_TANH. Reach out, let me know what you liked, what you didn't like, or what you want to hear about in the future. I'm here to tailor this to you. Until next time.